Look, it's too early to tell. I think Rishi is probably going to get to the final two, and then I think it's going to be either Penny Mordaunt or Liz Truss. But Kemi's got an outside chance because the right of the party needs to decide quite quickly now who it's going to back.
I do wonder whether or not Rishi Sunak's qualified, because until Sajid Javid stepped down, no one really knew who he was.
Well, he had a meteoric rise.
He did.
Patrick. But, you know, the interesting thing about Rishi is, look, he came into Parliament when he was in 2015, he came into Parliament. He made a very big call really early on in his career, which could have actually ended it quite quickly, which was to back Brexit. Now, if you remember at the time, Cameron and Osborne and the crew were all going for Remain. And as a new, ambitious, smart MP, you would have thought that he would have fallen in like a lot of other people, some of whom are standing in this contest, and backed Remain. But he didn't. He went out there, took a stand, and against the odds, and he actually made a right call. He also was a very early backer of Boris Johnson. Again, a big call he made.
So you could argue, just sorry to interrupt, but you could argue on both of those things. He's had his finger on the pulse.
Indeed. He has had his finger on the pulse. Look, Rishi's a serious person. He, ex-investment banker, worked for a hedge fund, married well.
He obviously is.
Wouldn't we all like to?
Yeah, of course.
The good thing about this is that he has had to run the most difficult department in the government at a time of a global pandemic. Completely unprecedented, and did it to great aplomb. Now, some would argue, well, it's easy to be popular when you're giving out sweeties, right? He spent $400 billion in debt on furlough schemes and bounce-back loans, and that's fine. The tough decisions actually come when you have to make decisions about how you're going to pay this back.
Well, and it's interesting, actually, that a lot of other candidates are queuing up to say, we will cut taxes, without really
But it's crazy, Patrick.
Without explaining. Well, look, I want to pay less tax. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure we all want to pay less tax. I've got nothing wrong whatsoever with anyone saying, I want to pay less tax, right? But there is a big question mark over, well, where else does that money come from? Rishi Sunak, who was the man in charge of, as you said, dishing out the old sweeties, well, he's not really saying he's going to cut taxes, is he?
Well, he's just being honest, I think. And if you look at the other candidates, and I'd like to hear from Penny what she wants to do on tax. I think it's unclear to me what her policy is yet. I think Liz Truss came out today and said that she really would view this as sort of wartime debt. So she wants to actually borrow, as I understand it, to fund tax cuts. I find that completely crazy, personally.
Yeah, I understand what you mean, but I mean, at the end of the day, there's loads of other countries that have been bailed out in the past, you know. But one thing I will say, though, is I'm not convinced about how well Rishi Sunak goes down up north. And the red wall just is an important thing, right? It just is an important thing. And from someone who's from that neck of the woods, for me, I just don't think Rishi's got the kind of vibe that would go down well up north. I just don't think.
Well, if you think about up north, Patrick, what's one of the key planks of this whole government's policy? It was levelling up, right?
Which hasn't happened.
Now, exactly. Now, you need money to level up. Now, what Rishi Sunak's saying is increase corporation tax from 19 to 25%. And just to put it in context, in 2007, corporation tax was 30%. So people having a heart attack about reducing it from 19 to 15%, which some of the other candidates earlier in this contest were talking about, pie in the sky. I mean, who's going to pay for all this back? We've got a 6.5 million waiting list backlog on the NHS at the moment, right? Even on this 1.25 increase in national insurance, which is going to raise 12 billion a year, now the national insurance thresholds have been raised, it's only going to raise 6 billion a year, right? We need that 6 billion a year. You want to be removing the national insurance increase, cutting corporation tax. How are we going to pay for the public services? We've got inflationary wage demands from people across the public sector. Morale is at an all-time low. People feel that the capitalist system is not working for them. And people are talking about tax cuts. Look, I'm a tax cutter myself. I would like to pay less tax, but at the right time. And what Sunak is saying, and I think he's right here, is if you look at Margaret Thatcher, when she came in 1979, 83% personal tax rate. She reduced tax there, but she then, later, in an early budget, increased VAT because you have to balance the books.